Avoidants can't stop themselves from feeling everything at once when this one thing happens, and it has to do with Inside Out too. Alright, so in the movie you've got Joy. She's the leader of the control room inside Riley's mind. Alongside her are classic emotions like sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. They've been running the show since childhood, keeping things pretty balanced, but then anxiety shows up. And she doesn't just add herself to the team. She kicks everyone else out of the control room and hijacks the whole system. Total override. Suddenly, Riley's not operating with the full crew anymore, just one emotion in full control with the dials turned up to 11. Now, this metaphor perfectly explains what happens to avoidants because whether you realize it or not, every avoidant has their own internal crew running the normal day-to-day operations inside their own emotional control room. And I'd like to introduce you to them. We'll start first with Captain Cool. He's in charge of flipping the shutdown switch when feelings arise. Next, we have Lieutenant Logic, the rationalizer. He holds a clipboard and turns emotional pain into spreadsheets. Then we have Sergeant SelfReliance. He's the lone wolf enforcer. He shuts down any incoming emotional dependence. We have Intern Indifference, the emotional minimizer. He kind of just shrugs at everything. And finally, there's Engineer Nostalgia, the keeper of the Phantom X. They are quiet, always polishing a memory like it's a jewel. Now, just like Inside Out, this crew has a leader. In that movie, it's Joy. In this video, our leader is Sergeant SelfReliance. After all, he's deeply tied to the core wound of the avoidant, a need to keep independence at all costs. But this video isn't just about making fun little analogies. No, we're going to talk about the one thing that happens that changes everything for this little crew. So no one watched this video that I did about a month ago where I talked about this concept that was almost always present amongst interviews I conducted where people had just gotten back together with avoidance. I'll let Harley fill you in.
Did he ever say anything about you dating other guys while you were apart?
Oh yeah, that was like big thing. I wouldn't recommend. I don't know. Girls take things a lot different than guys do. To me, it wasn't a big deal. It was just me trying to find myself and figure out who I am, what I want, and experiencing more things because I haven't been in a lot of relationships. And being with other people helped me a lot in realizing that and what I wanted. And also, I'm in my 20s. You gotta experience more things. And he was a little upset.
He didn't like that.
No, he was a little upset with that. And I don't know. He made it.
So Harley's avoidant gets upset at the thought she might be dating someone new. Interesting. Now on my YouTube channel, I have this playlist called Success Stories where I conduct these interviews with individuals who got back with their avoidance. So for that video I did that no one watched, I did this analysis and found that roughly 49% of the interviews I've made public on YouTube all seem to mention that a contributing factor to their success was an avoidant being worried about you dating someone new or seeing you actually date someone new. That's pretty significant, and it just so happens to lead us to the trigger, this that ends up breaking the avoidance system. Question. What is the one thing that causes an emotional flood for an avoidant? Well, if you've been an avid watcher of my channel, you'll constantly hear me pounding the drum of move on and let go. That's what works best. You see, the moment they realize you've truly moved on, it's when they see you're happy, you're not reaching, you're not performing, you're free of needing them. Now, what better way is there to indicate to an avoidant that you are moved on than dating someone new? It sends a crystal clear signal, not just that you're gone, but that you're no longer orbiting them emotionally. And that likely explains why so many of those success story interviews that I audited kept circling back to the same thing. The avoidant didn't wake up until they felt they'd truly lost you. Let's get back to our avoidant emotional control room. Okay, so before you, we have our 5 different characters. Captain Cool leaning back in his chair, sipping iced coffee, sunglasses on, barely blinking. Lieutenant Logic is reviewing spreadsheets labeled risk of intimacy and justifying withdrawal. Sergeant SelfReliance is standing by the door like a bodyguard, arms crossed, muttering, "We don't need anyone." Intern Indifference is scrolling on a cracked phone, half asleep, mumbling, "It's fine, it's fine." Nostalgia is off in the corner, polishing a memory orb from 3 years ago, you laughing at sunset. Everything is manageable, emotionally suppressed, just the way they like it, until a red light starts blinking. It's a new data alert. A blurry image appears on the monitor. It's you smiling on a date with someone else. Captain Cool drops his iced coffee. Lieutenant Logic's charts glitch. Sergeant SelfReliance yells, "Breach in Sector 5!" Engineer Nostalgia fumbles the orb. It shatters on the ground, and then the doors slam open and we meet Overseer Overwhelm, wearing a lab coat over a straitjacket, eyes wide, hair fried, smashing buttons like a raccoon in a control tower. They've moved on, initiate meltdown protocol. Alarms blare, sirens scream, all systems flood at once. Grief pours out of the vents, regret comes crashing through the walls. Even hope shows up banging the door, asking to be let in. Captain Cool tries to regain control. Everyone stay chill, it's probably just a phase. Intern Indifference crawls under the desk, whispering, "Not my job." Sergeant SelfReliance tries to radio for backup, but the line is dead, and just like that, the Avoidant feels everything they've been avoiding all at once. The system is no longer calm, it's chaos. So Overseer Overwhelm does the only thing it knows how to do. It ejects every single one of the Avoidant's original emotions out of the control room and slams the door shut behind them. They're all left outside, stunned, disoriented, and for the first time, powerless. Now let's pull out of that story for a second, because this happens a lot. If you're charting this on the Avoidant death wheel, this usually happens right around stage 7 or 8, when they start feeling lonely again, when the silence gets too loud, and they begin wondering why this is always happening to them. That's likely when Overwhelm quietly slips in and takes over the controls. Sometimes, sure, it's triggered by seeing you move on, like we've referenced already, but sometimes it doesn't even take that. Sometimes the memory of the relationship is so powerful that just recalling how safe they felt with you, how seen they were, is enough to send a panic signal through their system. And in an attempt to run from those feelings, Overwhelm pushes them to do something impulsive. Jump into a new relationship, reconnect with you out of nowhere, start breadcrumbing just to test to see if the door is still open. That's all Overwhelm. It's chaos disguised as clarity. Now, if you want to see what Overseer Overwhelm looks like in real time, I'd encourage you to take a look at some of the success stories in the community, like Jamie here, who after 8 months had an Avoidant beg for the chance to come back. One of the big lessons she shares is, number 1, you have to move on, and number 2, date other people. And if you're wondering how people like Jamie actually pull that off, how they rebuild, reframe, and create the kind of energy that makes an Avoidant rethink everything, well, that's exactly what we help people do inside the Seiter Super Offer. It's a massive 50% discount in our private community, weekly coaching, every course I've ever made, plus a battle buddy system, so you're never navigating this alone. So if you're serious about creating the kind of shift that makes your Avoidant want back in, you don't have to do this in the dark. Simply click the link in the description to claim the discount today. Okay, here's the hard part most people forget. A lot of times this is emotional fool's gold, because the real Avoidant emotions, the one that actually govern their attachment patterns, are still locked out of the room. And they're coming back, but not easily. Each one has to face something first, because in order to re-enter the control room, they have to confront the exact fear that got them kicked out in the first place. So Captain Cool is used to pretending that nothing gets to him. He's mastered the art of emotional detachment, but now he's stranded outside the control room with no script to follow, no one to impress, and nothing to distract him from the gnawing feeling in his chest. He wants answers. Why am I like this? Why does this always happen? But there are none. And in that silence, he starts to realize that maybe not knowing is more honest than always being in control. For the first time, he feels the discomfort of being real. Lieutenant Logic keeps trying to explain everything away. He pulls out pie charts labeled emotional risk tolerance and flow charts showing why vulnerability was a trap, but the feelings don't compute. They're messy, they're contradictory. He keeps revisiting the moment he saw you smile in someone else's story, and he can't make the math work. Every attempt to rationalize only brings more confusion, and slowly, painfully, he learns that not every emotion needs a spreadsheet. Some just need to be felt. Sergeant SelfReliance swore he'd never need anyone. He built his identity around independence. He scoffed at emotional dependence. And now he's haunted by small, stupid memories. The way you'd squeeze his hand during the movies. The way you'd laugh at his dry jokes. Moments he claimed it didn't matter, except they do. And he keeps replaying them over and over. A crack forms in his armor. Not a break, but just enough for the truth to leak in. Needing someone doesn't make him weak. Pretending he didn't is what broke him. Intern Indifference still mumbles whatever, but their posture has changed. They're slouched in the hallway, replaying the last thing they said to you and realizing they didn't mean it. They never meant it. They just didn't know how to show they cared without risking rejection. So they played it cool. Too cool. And now, alone with their thoughts, they stare at the ground and whisper to no one, "I did care, I just couldn't show it." Engineer nostalgia keeps clinging to the Phantom X, that stitched together memory of every relationship that felt safe from commitment. He keeps staring into his orb, replaying the same perfect moment from years ago that never truly existed. But each step back toward the control room forces him to face a painful truth. That fantasy isn't love, it's escape, it's distance disguised as devotion. And the only reason he keeps returning to the past is because the present still hurts. He hasn't been searching for the perfect person, he's been running from the real one. Now eventually, our motley crew makes it back inside the control room, and it's nothing like the place they left. The lights are still flickering, warning alarms still flash in the background, a sticky trail of emotions coat the floor, regret, longing, jealousy, even a half-spilled vial of hope. Broken levers spark at the random. The main console is cracked straight down the middle. The room smells like panic, but there's something else now too. Stillness, like the aftermath of a storm that no one's quite ready to talk about. For me, this is actually the most interesting part of the story, because if this were a Pixar movie like Inside Out, the characters would learn a lesson, turn over a new leaf, and stop being avoidant. So what do? Well, not that. They clean up just enough. They shove the spilled feelings into a back cabinet. They tape the cracked console, they turn the alarms down to a dull hum, and one by one they slip back into their old roles. Captain Cool puts his sunglasses back on, logic finds new ways to rationalize what just happened, self-reliance reinforces the perimeter, indifference mutters whatever and tightens their hoodie, nostalgia starts polishing a new orb, one that edits out the pain. Order is restored, and if you're charting this on the Avoidant death wheel, this is where stage 2 ends. The honeymoon period. And stage 3 begins, where they start to notice some worrying things. They reconnect, sure, but something feels off. Too much closeness, too much risk. They begin scanning for flaws. The fear starts creeping back in because the crew might have made it back into the control room. But they're still afraid of what happens if they ever feel all of that again. And ultimately, they do. It's this endless cycle where they break up, feel happy, see you move on, get overwhelmed, get kicked out, and on again. But here's something you may not know. Every single time the emotions get kicked out of the control room, they have to go through the trials to get back in, right? Well, what they learn does linger, even though they push it to the side and act like it doesn't when they get back inside the control room. Because here's the truth. Every revolution around the death wheel weakens the system. Every time the crew gets ejected and has to fight their way back in, the walls don't rebuild quite the same. The repairs get sloppier, the denial gets thinner, and the emotional residue left behind, it starts to stick. This idea matches with what psychologists call earned security. It's the process by which someone with an insecure attachment, like avoidance, can slowly develop more secure patterns over time. It doesn't happen through one big breakthrough, but through repeated emotional experiences that contradict their old defenses. One study from Charlie Health found that avoidantly attached individuals can shift towards secure attachment when exposed to emotionally consistent, safe interactions over time. But what's most interesting is that the shift often begins after relational ruptures, moments when their usual defenses fail. So even though they try to return to business as usual, each cycle chips away at the armor. The avoidant starts to experience a kind of emotional cognitive dissonance. Their system says, I don't need anyone, but their body remembers how much it hurt to lose you. Their mind recalls the chaos that happened when they felt left behind, and over time, that contradiction becomes harder to ignore. The big question, though, that I think is faced by most people who watch my content is this even worth it? Should you put yourself through the ringer for someone like this? And I'm actually not sure how to answer that question because people will do what they want to do no matter what I tell them. What I do know though is that if you want overseer overwhelm to pay an avoidant a visit, all you have to do is move on and let go. Speaking of moving on and letting go, that's one of the things we've found in the Seiter super offer that I mentioned earlier that works best to make avoidants regret leaving you. If you're interested in the massive 50% discount on everything I've ever created, simply click the link in the description below.